A Day in Colonial Haiti by Philippe Girard. Narrated by Oluseun Olagbaju. 11 p.m. The militiamen make their last round. Jean-Baptiste Belley and Janvier Dessalines are walking down the street of St. James in the high part of the Cape. Belley knows the area well. His wig-making shop is just down the road. However, Belley is not out on urgent wig-related business at this late hour. He has a second career that has earned him the nickname of Mars after the Roman god of war. Belley and Dessalines belong to the colored militia, the maréchaussée, whose normal duties include catching runaway slaves and escorting the condemned to the execution site. Tonight they are on watch duty. Both men have combat experience from when they served in the Free Colored Unit in Savannah during the American War of Independence. They don't typically patrol the city of the Cape. That's the job of the city's police force, which consists of 2 inspectors and 8 archers. But a grand total of 10 policemen is not much for a boisterous city of 15,000 where the vast enslaved population has every reason to revolt, and members of the free white population are barely better behaved than their pirate ancestors. Governor Bellocombe was so spooked by the riots at this afternoon's execution that he asked the militia to assist the overrun police. The governor, who was staying at the government house a few blocks away, specifically asked Belley and Dessalines to be on the lookout for a young woman, a con artist who has eluded authorities for months. She claims to be the daughter of a Breton noble, which is why she goes by the name Morlaix after the town in Brittany. But the governor warned that this may be a lie. Visitors often reinvent their past when they arrive in Haiti. Belley nodded knowingly. He alternately lists his birthplace as either Léogane in Haiti or Gorée in Senegal, depending on who he's talking to. Miss Morlaix was working as a clerk for a local merchant when she devised a simple but clever ruse. She offered clients a discount if they paid cash, pocketed the money, and recorded that the clients had purchased the items on credit. The scam netted her 50,000 livres before her employer discovered the fraud. Morlaix and her boyfriend were arrested. He did not survive his interrogation. She was sentenced to be whipped, branded, and deported to France. Whipping and branding don't bother Belley. He and Dessalines each owned slaves. But Morlaix's sentence did not sit well with the lower class whites of the Cape. In an age of rising racial tensions, they could not abide the notion that a black executioner would publicly whip and brand a bare-chested white woman. To them, instead of being a criminal, she was a Robin Hood figure. Merchants like Morlaix's boss are widely unpopular for charging inflated prices on imported goods. Her supporters helped her escape on her way to the scaffold, and she has been in hiding ever since. Morlaix, the governor insisted, must be captured and punished to show the white rabble that the king's justice always has the last word. Dessalines has a more private mission on his mind. His dear friend Martine Jasmin, the wife of another Savannah veteran who has a coffee plantation in the hills, is looking for a runaway slave named Jean-Jacques. According to the urgent message she sent him, he may be hiding in the Theatre of the Cape, which is just 2 blocks down the street near Montarcher Square. 2 needles in a haystack then, a scammer and a runaway. Morlaix should be the easiest to find of the 2. She is an amateur naturalist who, according to a police report, carries the pointy rostrum of a swordfish and a stuffed pink flamingo in her luggage. What is it with whites and tropical animals? Dessalines asks. Don't they have birds and fish in France? Belley doesn't respond. He is distracted by a commotion at the corner of Spanish Street. It turns out to be a pair of drunken gamblers who were kicked out of a bar. Technically, Belley should cite them for illegal gambling, but he was once fined for the same offense, so he lets it slide. No need to burden the civil judge of the Cape with yet another case. He issues 500 rulings in a typical week. Belley instead tells the 2 men to sober up and go home. They obey, though one of them, a prickly old white planter, clearly resents being scolded by a black man in uniform. There's a palpable energy in the air. The Cape isn't exactly a quiet town, even in the best of days, but tonight feels different somehow. What do you expect? Tomorrow is Monday, Dessalines erupts. He's right, Belley thinks. Debts are due on Mondays, so every debtor in the city is on edge. Creditors too. By law, a colonist plantation and slaves can't be seized, so they routinely defer payments. The entire colony is a speculative scheme built on easy credit. Do you remember that play Mondays in the Cape? The one about paying debts? Dessalines asked. That was a fun one. I liked it when they mocked the accents of white hillbillies for one. Dessalines stops mid-sentence and points to a body. It is hanging from a beam a few houses down on Montarchet Square. It sways gently with the night breeze. A sign on his chest reads, Bremont. Wait, says Dessalines. Bremont. That's Miss Morlaix's boss. Or it's meant to be, responds Belley. Belley is right. It is not an actual body. Rather, it is a life-size mannequin. A note is pinned to its chest. Dessalines hands it over to Belley. Dessalines can sign his name, but Belley is the more literate of the two. Belley reads the note, and then reads it again. He's perplexed. The elegant script is easy to decipher, but the language, filled with French legalese, is hard to comprehend. This looks like a court sentence, but confusingly, it is signed by a, quote, council of the people, instead of the Cape's official appeals court. This makes no sense. There is no council of the people in the Cape. France is an absolute monarchy. No one votes in the colony, not even whites. Dessalines is getting impatient. So, what does the note say? Some self-proclaimed council of the people, responds Belley. Probably fans of Miss Morlaix. I guess they think they are the real rulers of this town? They denounce her boss as a monster and a scoundrel here and there. Then they sentence him to be hanged and strangled until dead to a scaffold planted in the church square. See, it's written right there. Dessalines is equally flummoxed. Well, that's a new one. Whites quarrel often enough. How many of them died in duels during the war? 80? But now the white trash wants to set up their own courts and sentence the rich to death? What game do they think they're playing? We outnumber whites, what, 10 or 20 to 1? Should they really be fighting each other? They're sitting on a barrel of gunpowder and they're fighting over the matches. Belley remembers reading a forbidden book that predicted the coming of a great upheaval. One passage in particular caught his attention. Quote, the Negroes only need a chief courageous enough to lead them to vengeance. Where is he, this great man, this new Spartacus? End quote. Belley looked it up. Spartacus was a slave in some ancient white empire who led a massive revolt eons ago. Ever since hearing of him, Belley has wondered who Haiti's Black Spartacus could be. Judging by today's events, the Great Revolt is not far off, so that Spartacus is probably alive already. Perhaps he is patrolling the streets of this very city tonight. Belley and Dessalines reach Montarchet Square. The fountain in the middle is covered in biting little poems known as epigrams, one of which accuses the governor of being a, quote, crowned piece of shit. The two men have almost reached the theater on the other side when the ground jostles under their feet. Dessalines stops. Did you feel that? Hell yes, how could I not? Earthquakes are urban Haitians' biggest fear. Aside from fires, hurricanes, wars, slave revolts, famines, epidemics, and urban riots, that is. No one knows what causes them, but their effects are obvious enough. A quake destroyed Port-au-Prince less than 15 years ago. The doors of the theater swing open, and a panicky crowd rushes out in a stampede. There, Janvier Dessalines just spotted the runaway slave, Jean-Jacques, in the fleeing crowd. Another tremor hits the city. This one longer and more intense. No doubt about it, this is an earthquake. Belley sighs, as if this day couldn't get any weirder.
This is a note by your favorite historian, Philippe Girard. The story of the young woman Morlaix is real, but it did happen on a different day. I changed the chronology so that it could happen on Easter Sunday of 1784 and fit the chronology of the book. Following her sentence and first escape, she was captured and whipped, but then, while awaiting her deportation to France, she filed away the bars of her cell and managed to escape. Again. White lower-class political upheavals were also very real. They became endemic in 1788 to 91 and played a great role in facilitating the onset of the Haitian Revolution. Janvier Dessalines played a fairly minor role in that revolution as a super or concierge in the government house of the Cape. The role of Jean-Baptiste Belley was far more important. He was a member of a three-man delegation that convinced the French Parliament to abolish slavery in all of its colonies in 1794. Belley then served as the first black deputy ever elected to the French Parliament. Earthquakes in Haiti were also very much a real thing. One of them eventually destroyed the city of the Cape in 1842. This book is available on Amazon as an audiobook, an ebook, a paperback, and a hardback.